I call the old Dodge Boys commercial, Dodge Boy commercial. This guy had mirrored sunglasses, and probably, well, I was in the Air Force at the time, so I didn't have this 5 milli I have now, but he had a 5 milli. He had a pistol belt with probably, I don't know, 150 attachments, it seemed like. And he had pearl-handled revolvers. Yeah, if you ain't getting the vision of this, then you probably haven't seen the Dodge Boys. But anyway, just I don't want to use a term that we use often that deals with the color and something else, you know. But he pulled me over, and it was a righteous pullover. I was doing 42 and a 35. Now, in the military, when you are in the military, your driver's license is good until 180 days after you're finished with the military, at which time you're supposed to get your license renewed for whatever state you happen to be in. You know, but, you know, haircuts back then and all the other stuff, it was pretty apparent that as a GI. So he's looked at my license, and he can't figure it out that it's the little stamp that says Commonwealth of Pennsylvania all over the paper. Pennsylvania's a Commonwealth, it's not technically a state. The guy looks at me, he says these words, quote, "Where are you from, boy?" "I'm from America, man. Where are you from?" You know, it's times like those when you realize you erred, as we're talking about here. Erred. As soon as I said those words, I knew this wasn't going to go well for me. And he did that thing like in, there's one of the movies where a cop goes like that on his chin with the license. Look, you're smart off a good boy, you know? And I said, "I'm from Pennsylvania." Anyway, he wrote me up for 55 and a 35. Okay.
Pencil whipped you.
Huh?
Pencil whipped you.
You know, and frankly, that would be the normal outcome. If I'd said one more errant word, I probably would have been pistol whipped. And at the risk of being racist, thank God I wasn't black at that time in Deep South. Hello. Yeah. 1970. I got it just a couple months before I went overseas.
I didn't say pistol, I said pencil.
Oh, pencil.
He pencil whipped you with that.
Yeah, he did that.
Yeah.
But I was more grateful for
yeah,
pencil
yeah.
Because it could have been the pistol.
Oh, it could have been a pearl handle.
Yeah. If I and be truthful in the way the world was, in the way Shreveport and Bossier City, Louisiana were at that time, if I had been black, they never probably would have found my body.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's simple. Slow to speak. Around about then, I started to get a little smart. That ticket cost me $27.50. Then I left Louisiana and went to a safer place, Vietnam.
Safer place. Vietnam, huh?
Yeah. Actually, for me, it was. You know, I was a psychotic the whole time. My biggest fear was that I was getting blown away by a drunken soldier or sailor in one of the bars.
That old Waterloo.
Yeah. Anyway, slow to speak. This is an infinitive which denotes purpose. It is used with the preparation ice. It means that it is to be their purpose to be slow in entering into saying anything. And I will guarantee you, not because of that incident, because that didn't change my way of speaking that much, only to authority figures did I learn that. But since I became a Christian, there are so many times in my life that I felt like I absolutely had to speak out about a situation. And the Holy Spirit prompted me, let's just wait a little bit. Certainly not in that language, but something moved me to just keep my mouth shut. And invariably, when I keep my mouth shut, the situation resolves itself without my involvement. God kind of knows what to do, way more than kind of. So I stay out of a lot of trouble because if I had gone into a fray, gone into a discussion or something like that, I guarantee you I would have done the knucklehead thing, I would have done that. I was more good at knucklehead in this than I was anything. Slow to wrath, or again, revengeful anger. Southern California. Is there any road rage going on in Southern California every now and then? Huh? Yeah.
All day?
Seriously? I'm not 100% immune to it. I internalize it a whole lot more than I used to. But you put yourself in some scary situations. The word here was a participle denoting a principle of learning. Speak was an infinitive denoting making it a purpose to be slow in saying anything. Wrath is a noun in the accusative case indicating that we are to be slow about entering a state of vengeful anger. Subparagraph B, proper actions lay apart, apophemenoi. To lay aside as a dirty garment. All filthiness, the word is reparion, dirt. However, it is used metaphorically of moral defilement. Superfluity of naughtiness. That word naughty in our language today seems to be like just like a little bit bad, yeah, he just wasn't thinking. No, man, back then, I mean, what it means in King James is abundance of evil. Way more than what we think of, especially the word superfluity. I mean, how often do I say superfluity in my conversations? You try sometimes, it's fun. I don't. That's what it used. Receive with meekness the engrafted word which is able to save your souls. Meekness comes from the word prauteti. Understanding that all we are and have are a result of God's grace. Engrafted word, the word which has been faith transferred to the right frontal lobe, where your frame of reference, norms of standards, and conscience are located. Save your souls is deliver your souls. The context indicates this deliverance is out of temptation. According to many of the teachings of the day, that's the thing about your right frontal lobe, that's where all that stuff is located. I don't know if they emptied that. They took out that right frontal lobe. I don't know what life would be like, but I think we're discovering nowadays that there are different things that can happen to the brain. So, Roman numeral 3 here, doers of the word. We are commanded to be doers of the word. Paragraph 122a. But be ye doers of the word and not hearers only. One thing for us to know what the right things are to do and what the wrong things are not to do. It's the other thing to participate in the rightness and stay away from the wrongness. Again, I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's way easier to do wrong. It takes me longer to recover from wrong sometimes, but, and speaking of the word but, comes from the Greek word dead. That's a conjunction of contrast. And if you hear that, it means you're going to hear something else. Probably the opposite. Be, geneste, become something different than you are now. Then if you are new to Christendom, you've already discovered that it's different. You have to become different. You have to start changing. In many cases, we have to start changing our language. Cutting out some of the action verbs that we come up with from time to time. Changing them into different action verbs. Okay. Be, geneste, becoming. The middle voice means the subject participates in the action and is benefited. If we do these things, good stuff comes our way. If we don't, other things are more likely to come our way. The imperative mood is a command. A command. Do it. God giving you an order. And you have any military experience, or any of you have an authoritarian parent? Generally speaking, when you did exactly as you were told to do, life was better. Certainly, if you're confronted by a law enforcement force, it's a very good idea to comply. And we know what happens when we don't. Doers, poetai, performers of the word, lagu, the word, Bible, the expression of God's thought. We are commanded to not be only hearers of the word. In the B part of that verse 1, chapter 1, verse 22. And not hearers only, deceiving their own selves. And this guy has a simple conjunction, excuse me. Not is a negative. The Greek word ou is negative. Hearers only, apartes monos, just hearers. Deceiving paralogadasminoi, to reason falsely and lead yourself astray, your own selves. Again, I say, it's easy. It's easy for me to participate, easier for me to participate in the wrong things in my life than it is to participate in the good things. The rewards of the good things are certainly greater, and the difficulties of the wrong things are certainly worse. But nonetheless, that's the way Don Nisley is, and I would hope and pray that none of you are that way. Paragraph 3, the lesson illustrated, verses 23 and through 25. For if any be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass. For he beholdeth himself, and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man he was. But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty, and continueth therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed. For if first class conditional clause, I think some of you have heard me talking about classes of conditional clause. Since, we can use the word since. It means that, yeah, it really is. Even though we say yeah, it doesn't really mean could be this way, could be that way. It means it is that way. So since any be a hearer of the word, there are those who are just hearers. There are even a great deal of people who can quote you some verse, moment's notice. You just give them an idea and they'll be able to give you the name of the passage and the words of it and all those other kinds of things. But then you look at it and you see you don't see the application in their lives to those particular words. They're hearers. So faith transfer does not occur. He does not place his dependency upon what he hears. He's not a doer, poetes, he's a performer. Or he's not a performer, he doesn't actually do that. He is like a man beholding, who's apprehending certain things about a thing. His natural face in a glass. The illustration is of a man who develops perception about how he looks by glancing in a mirror to see his face. For he beholdeth himself, beholdeth comes from Captain takes a quick glance at himself. Thus, while he hears the word, he does not faith transfer it. He listens, but does not resemble himself by it. Therefore, he very quickly forgets what kind of man he is. But whoso? Now let's look at an alternative approach to the word. Looketh, parakufas, to bend forward and stare intently into the perfect law of liberty. This is an idiom denoting the Word of God and continueth therein, paraminas, remains in that position, staring intently. He being Ganavanos, becoming something he was not previously. Not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the word. Ergo. Putting the word into operation through personal application. This man shall be blessed. Makarios, I think you probably heard that word a couple times. Happy in his deed, poetes, performance. Thus we are commanded to be doers of the word. We are enabled to be doers of the word. For it is God which worketh in you both to will and do of his good pleasure. Roman numeral 4, pure religion. James 1:26-27 enforces by example what the verses which precede them illustrate by simile. A simile is a figure of speech in which one thing is likened to something dissimilar. James 1:26-27 teaches us the folly of religion. The folly of religion. What Christians are not to be is religious. I think we're probably going to get a discussion on that. If we don't, you're still going to get a discussion on that. These verses are not meant to instruct us in our religious practice. Rather, they are given to show the this passage is the word religion. It is translated from the Greek word freskos. This word puts an emphasis on the external rituals and ceremonies of religion. In other words, James is attempting to show us that religion is not the solution to man's need. He is showing us the folly and impossibility of external ritual and ceremony. I think some of you know that I know a few things about the Buddhist religion. I will use that word religion advisedly. They have certain rituals that they do. Different countries of Buddhist people have different things, but in the Vietnamese part of the house, it's always 3 joss sticks, and they put them in their hands and they hold them like this, and they do a prayer before the statue of Buddha. And that's supposed to grant you whatever resolution. You do a prayer that goes along with it. And unfortunately, their word for God is a word that it's hard to, if you say it right in Vietnamese, it sounds like a not so good word in English, so I'm not going to repeat that here right now. But certainly believe that the joss sticks have taken your prayers to their version of heaven, and I don't think they use the word heaven. I don't think they use a word that describes heaven. I think they look in terms of nirvana. If any man among you seem to be religious and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is vain. So paragraph A, practicing the externals of religion is deceiving oneself. If, again, it's a first class conditional clause. If as the case is, so you use the word since, any man, that word is tis, anyone among you seeing, dokai, considers himself to be religious, strachkaya, one who practices the external religion and ceremonies of religion, and bridleth not his tongue. This is a reference back to verse 19. It's swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. But Allah. Allah is the strongest Greek conjunction of contrast. But deceiveth, apaton, leads astray his own heart. He leads his own functioning mind astray. External religious practices is void of result. This man's tutu, this one's. Religion, krashkaya, external religious practices external religious practice is, this verb is not in original order to emphasize the emptiness of this religion. Vain, the chaos, void of result. Point of doctrine, to practice the externals of religion is folly if the tongue is not kept bridled. Point of doctrine, that kind of religion is void of results. I was married in the Vietnamese Buddhist wedding ceremony in Vietnam. And we did all that stuff with the joss sticks. It was absolutely meaningless to me. The only thing that I wanted was you sign on the undotted line and say we're married. That's what I wanted, you know. I got that, you know. Then 47 years plus of Buddhist involvement in my life. Pure religion is unattainable. Verse 27, pure religion and undefiled before God and Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world. The externals of clean and undefiled religion. Pure is kathara. We get the word catharsis from that. If you're familiar with the word catharsis, it's the process of healing from traumatic whatever. Whether it's a physical trauma or an emotional trauma or whatever it may be. Grief. When somebody in our family dies, we grieve. And sometimes if we don't grieve well, and that may sound strange, we'll talk about that some other time, but if you don't grieve well, you never receive that catharsis. You know, my opinion, and this is only my opinion is that if you don't have a good, thorough breakdown in the process of the burial of a loved one, you haven't had that catharsis. And if that's still in your life, get help for it. You know? I remember when my mom died 3 weeks before I went to the Air Force. I remember standing in the back of the church. She was Roman Catholic. And I remember thinking, why am I not crying? Well, I was such a cold-hearted, and I had various hyphenated words that I used to describe people and myself. It's just amazing to me that this is my mom. She's laying there. And I know she's dead. She's not there anymore, or I think. I don't know how all that works. You know how it all works. And it was bothering me that I wasn't bothered. But I did one thing right, and that was I walked up to the casket and put my hand on her hands. And if you've ever touched and embalmed the body, it would feel different. That gave me my catharsis because I broke down. Finally broke down. And I realized she's not there anymore. That's catharsis. So that word, pure, it actually comes from that. That which has been cleansed. Religion, Thriskaya, we've mentioned that a couple times, external ritual and ceremonies. Now we're reading again, aren't we? No, we're on the right page. Yeah, okay. Thought I was just flipping the page the wrong way and starting all over again. Okay. Undefiled, amiantos, free from contamination. There are things that we could do with whom I drive to Moore Park on Mondays and Tuesdays and take them to school. Well, his mindset at 10 years old is, yeah, it's only a little wrong. Yeah, it's only a little wrong. Yeah, mess in my car, but it's only a little wrong. And before means par, or par means before actually. In the sense of standing before God and the Father, Tateo Kai Patri, the God, even Father. Is this Ateistin keeps on being this. The first responsibility listed here is to care for the orphans and widows. The text says to visit, episkepthestai, to oversee and care for the orphans and widows in their affliction, the fatherless and the widows in their affliction, flip side. Sufferings due to the pressure of circumstances and The second responsibility listed is to keep one unspotted from the world. That's a tough one. To keep terrain, a present active infinitive of terreo, to keep in a specific condition. The infinitive denotes that this is to be a purpose. And I know all these words, infinitives and participles and all these other things are actually grammatical terms. And, you know, I'm not teaching you Greek grammar. I'm not even teaching you American grammar. But just kind of, you know, get past it. The present tense indicates constantly keeping. Himself is otan. Himself unspotted, asphalon, without a blemish from the world. No one can keep himself unspotted. This is the impossibility of religion. Do you ever feel in your life that you've gotten through a day with no sin? You got some sin issues just in that thought alone. Okay, but we're not going to go there. The one thing none of us can do is point to another person and say, you sinned.
Amen.
It would probably be the truth in almost all cases, regardless of who said what to who. You sinned. However, it's not our call. I've sinned? Yeah, sure. I could say that. Consistently. No one can keep himself unspotted. This is the impossibility of religion. We can be cleansed, 1 John 1:9, but we can't keep ourselves from becoming spotted. Some of us can go 5 minutes past the first time that we've confessed in accordance with 1 John 1:9 before we sin. That's a target, guys. At least 5 minutes. See if you can make it 5 minutes next time you have your prayer and confession. Don't give me the results, however. Take the results yourself. Point of doctrine. If we are going to maintain clean and undefiled external religious practices, we will have to oversee and care for the orphans and widows and keep ourselves without blemish. Any attempt to try to interpret this passage as instruction concerning Christian living will find us all falling short. This passage simply shows us the inability of religious practices to gain us access to heaven or enable us to please God. And here is one who practices the external ritual and ceremonies of religion. He has not faith transferred the word to his frame of reference. If he practices the externals, he will fail miserable. None of us can attain this standard in the flesh. James has clearly shown us that any attempt on our part to meet God's requirements based on our religious practices will leave us far short of the standards required to be part of his eternal kingdom. Orphans and widows. That doesn't mean every one of you now has to go out and find an orphan and a widow and take care of that person. It's not what the purpose is. If that were the case, then only would we take care of orphans and widows, and all the rest of you, bag you know, whatever. You know, that's not what it's saying. It's only saying, do good, do unto others, do what I have to do unto you. Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break there while I practice saying that next big word in Roman numeral 5. I have lots of practice in that. So we'll take a break and come back at 11 o'clock. Okay? And if you're not here at 11, I'll call